I want to put those two photographs of this person of interest back up because, John, I mean, looking at these two photos, I would think somebody must recognize this person.
If you didn't know him and you passed him in the street, maybe without the hat and glasses, you probably wouldn't. But if you did know him, there's a pretty good chance you would. And we've seen that in many cases where people familiar with the person just say, I know who that is.
I also want to show, I believe we have a photo from the roof which show a footprint. Is this the photo that you would?
So that's a photo of that position, and right there you can see the law enforcement markers at each spot. But what you can see is where it appears somebody was laying down. There's the impressions of where the foot would have been, where the palms would have been as they extended that rifle out. It's
actually an imprint in gravel, essentially, of the body position of a shooter.
Exactly, and this won't particularly aid in identifying the person. Now, there's always the possibility, that you could extract DNA if he had an ungloved hand off of there, but it does help establish the crime, the place where the crime took place. When they get a suspect, the measurements may help. But the big deal today is they have a gun. The gun is likely connected to the crime. The bullet that was fired from that gun came from a shell casing that remained in the chamber. He never, after seeing that shot, ejected the shell casing.
I got to just jump in.
Sure.
I understand we have some new pictures of the person of interest from the Utah Public Safety. These are other images. We'll try to blow those up a little bit more, but we're just getting these in now.
And what you glean from these photos is the rifle isn't in the picture, but now you get a clearer picture of the backpack. And we learned from the Thomas Crook's attempt to kill Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, you can disassemble the rifle. You can put the parts in a backpack and assemble it, when you're on site on that roof, and take that shot.
So, John Pistol joining us as well. The assumption is then that a rifle would have been disassembled in that backpack and brought up, if that is in fact the killer.
Yeah, that's right, Anderson. And the whole idea is, what can the FBI do to establish that rifle that was found to the shooter in this case, based on whatever forensic evidence that they have gleaned from that. The palm print, okay, but what do you compare a palm print to? It's not like fingerprints for driver's license or passports or things like that. They'll also be looking for things, any digital evidence. Was there anything clearly on the web or perhaps on the dark web where this individual, whoever he is, indicated plans or planning or ideas, aspirational even, about wanting to commit some type of act that would be noteworthy? And then the question is, after 24 hours, as was mentioned earlier, the odds of finding somebody, a suspect like this, go down after 24 hours somewhat dramatically. And so it becomes more and more of a challenge. And to find the gun, that's great. To find any physical evidence, that's helpful. But what ties this individual into whoever he is, how is he identified, and then what can be done to locate him once he is identified? And so family and friends, they're seeing this and they've got to be thinking, oh, I can't believe this has happened, but we've got to notify the authorities, and whether it's for the $100,000 reward or not. But right now, a person of interest is not helping anybody other than trying to locate this individual.
Brianna, what stands out to you so far based on the statements of investigators, what's out there?
Yeah, well, quite a lot of information actually has been released. It's surprising that they haven't been able to get some leads on the photos, but there are some pieces that we can glean from this. One is the photo that's been released shows a flag emblem on the shirt that this suspect is wearing. I think that's pretty interesting, actually, either that he was wearing that to be able to fit in with this crowd at the rally, or that shirt was allegedly sourced from a Wounded Veteran Foundation. So it could speak to perhaps his background or maybe even a motive. Additionally, I think the shell casings are going to be extremely useful in the next few hours and days. They're submitting those in a NIBIN that takes a couple days. It's like matching fingerprints, but with shell casings. That takes a little while, but with that, they're going to be able to see if that weapon was used in any other crimes across the nation, and that will hopefully lead police a little closer to that person of interest.
John Miller, I mean, as John Pistol was saying, I mean, is time on the side of the investigators here?
You know, time floats in these things. And what I mean by that is when we had Cesar Sayoc, the bomber who was sending pipe bombs, including to CNN across New York City, that went on for a number of days where we had nothing. And then literally at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 leads came together, and then we had a name, we had a face, we had an address, we had a vehicle. With Luigi Mangione, we woke up that day with nothing, and then somebody spotted him in a McDonald's, and police came, and then we had a name, we had a suspect, and we had a murder weapon in a backpack. These things can turn on a dime. So the fact that they've put these pictures out, and now they put more pictures out, is to generate that lead bucket and make sure it's always full with calls coming in, because odds are, with this amount of exposure and this amount of resource, one of these is going to pan out.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, given the skill that this person had to make that shot, somebody who knows this person, seeing this photo, I mean, that's another piece.
That was not his first time shooting.
Right.
Somebody's going to know that in his background.
Right, and clearly there's probably, I mean, John Pistol, there may be a gun range where this person has practiced that would even identify this person.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like from the movies or something where let's go to the gun range, and obviously tracing the gun, as Brianna was referring to, where was that gun acquired? Was it purchased legally? Was it acquired in the black market? And the other thing that they would look at is how they can pursue this, identifying this person through all other means. So not only the physical evidence, the digital evidence, the dark web, as I mentioned, the neighborhood canvas, has anybody seen this person? But also, is this a trigger for some other person to use as a basis for taking some act that they think, okay, this is the start of what I wanted to do or we wanted to do, whether formally affiliated or just, again, thinking this, okay, this is the start of it. And this guy shot and killed Charlie Kirk, so I'm going to go and do something else, which I think, unfortunately, then leads to what you might get into later in terms of, are we going to see more virtual appearances rather than in-person appearances? And I imagine that would be the case for people who are wanting to appear in public up until a situation like this.
John Pistol, let me ask you, you were the president of Anderson University in Indiana for 10 years. I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous, I mean, a question I probably wouldn't have asked a couple days ago, but are outdoor political events, whether on college campuses or elsewhere, just too difficult to secure unless there is a presidential level protection?
Yeah, unless the person is bringing their own security package, whether as a top-ranking politician, president, VP, or speaker, or something like that, campus security cannot set up checkpoints. Any campus, however large or wealthy, absent a amazing undertaking of investment of resources.
Because I mean, Charlie Kirk had, I mean, his security, I was looking at the videos, they certainly seemed to know what they were doing. They were scanning the crowd. It looked like it was a close protection detail because a lot of them, rushed in right away. They got him into that SUV. They weren't waiting around for an ambulance. They seemed to know, how to keep a close protection detail. But unless, and we're told by the university there were 6 university police, also assigned to this event, but there were thousands of people there. And clearly, no one on the roofs.
Right, and so you don't have, like in Butler, PA, you don't even have the Secret Service and the local police who are not coordinating as well as they should have, as the lessons learned. So here we have a good close package of security, but anything from a distance, obviously just not effective, and fatally so for Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Brianna, I mean, if it is true that the words and phrases were scrawled on the rifle and ammunition, what does that tell you?
Well, this is a throwback in a way to what we saw even just with the Luigi Mangione killing in New York City, where there were notes inscribed on the shell casing. So all of this leads us to think that this is an ideological shooter, and that sort of fits the profile that we're seeing with several shootings, these politically motivated shootings these days, which are increasing frequently by the day. So one thing that we notice about ideological shooters, they tend to be younger in age, 20s and 30s. They tend to have a lot of experience with weapons. They tend to be loners, and they tend to really premeditate their crimes. Not perfectly so. I am confident that law enforcement will catch up with this shooter, but they do put a lot of energy into it because it's almost like a calling for them. They're fighting for some ideological reason.
Brianna Fox, thanks very much. John Pistol as well. John Miller.
Right now, the FBI is trying to track down the shooter who killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk. While authorities in Utah work to uncover a motive, they are calling this a targeted attack, an attack against a prominent political figure on an American college campus. This heinous attack comes against the backdrop of a nation, folks, that's reeling from a spike in political violence. In a new column for MSNBC.com, Simone writes, quote, "Democracy cannot function under fear. The constitutional promise of free speech means nothing if you can be killed while speaking your mind." Joining us now, Reverend Al Sharpton, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation. He's founder and president of the National Action Network.
Democracy cannot function under fear. I think our friend Simone gets it exactly right.
Exactly right. And I think that we have to see that in this context. Mm-hmm. We've been going through this whole diet of political violence like it's all right. And whether it's Democrat or Republican, it's not all right. I mean, we've seen state legislators killed. We've seen kids shot. We've seen a guy break into Speaker Pelosi's home and almost kill her husband. And we should be as outraged, as much as we may disagree with the politics of this last assassinated victim. We must see it all equally as something that we've got to deal with in this country. We do not yet know the motive or who the person is, but obviously there was a statement being made how he killed and where he killed. And I think that all of us that have been, I was stabbed once leading a march. Mm-hmm. So I know how it is to look at your kids and who have nothing to do with nothing and say, your father could be killed. You've got to stop this. And people on the left and the right have to unite around. We've got to stop political violence.
You know, and thank you guys for reading from the piece. Yes, I was supposed to write about something else today. But after we learned that Charlie Kirk died yesterday, I asked the MSNBC.com team, could I write about the news? Because I was very disturbed. And I made sure in my piece to talk about this in the context of all the string of killings of political public figures over the last just couple of, in the span between Melissa Hortman and her husband and Charlie Kirk is not that far between. But then you think about the 1950s and the 1960s, Reverend Sharpton, and it felt like it was the height of recent history for like a young person like myself of political violence that time.
Yeah, it was. And I think that if you think about those times, I was a kid. I was born in the 50s, but I was a kid when Dr. King got killed and Medgar Evers. People forget that right before the 1963 March on Washington, Medgar Evers was killed. But after the march, in his driveway, for trying to do voter registration. But even after the marches, when you had the bombing in the Birmingham church, killed 4 girls. So it was all of this one right after another. And now we're seeing it in real time again. What is really troubling to me is that we are beginning to normalize this. And I think that this is a time, rather than people choosing sides, we need to take the side of saying this political violence have to stop. Whatever we need to do, we need to do that.
Reverend, that part is the part that is the critical piece for me. And I want to talk to you as a reverend, not as an activist and all of that, because at the core of the normalization, there is a morality. And in my sense, that morality has been broken. That sense of connection to each other, that we see you as human, not as other. How do you explain that broken piece, that thing that sort of got us through the 30s when the Nazis were sort of trying to march here in New York City, and the country said no. In the 50s, as you just laid out, in the 60s, the killing of civil rights leaders in the country said, no, we're going to lean into that because there's a moral reason to do it, right? Because it goes to the human dignity that we want to enshrine in our law, right? What's broken now? What is that you see is not connecting?
I think what is broken is we're defining morality based on who the mortal is rather than what the morality is. And we've got to really bring the country back to what is moral or immoral for everybody.
Right.
So once we take the human side out of whoever we disagree with, then we justify whatever we want to do with them because we don't see them as human. They become a political entity that we have the right to do whatever we want. And they're not that. I disagreed with a lot of what he stood for, Charlie Kirk, but he's a father of children. He's a husband. He's a human being that he has the right to disagree with me with him, no matter how much I disagree with what he's saying. He's still a human being. I do not have the moral right to take his life or even to wound his life. And I think that's where we've done it on both sides. We've seen people on the left or even Democrats killed. And people act like, well, I don't have anything to say about it because I wasn't on their side. We've got to be on the human side. Today is 9/11. Yeah. We saw people killed that had nothing to do with politics. 3,000 people were killed right here in World Trade Center. Some of them I knew. Nobody sent an email in the night before and said, blacks don't come to work tomorrow or Latinos come in late because we're going at the bill. And they saw us all as Americans. And we died. Those 3,000 died all as Americans. And we have to see ourselves in life the way those that would kill us would see us in death.
To your point about the need for bipartisan leadership on this question, there are 4 U.S. presidents who put statements out. This from Bill Clinton. I hope we all go through some serious introspection and redouble our efforts to engage in debate passionately yet peacefully. From George W. Bush, violence and vitriol must be purged from the public square. Members of other political parties are not our enemies. They are our fellow citizens. Barack Obama, this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. And Joe Biden, there is no place in our country for this kind of violence. It must end now. That is the leadership piece of this. But for the rest of us, as everyday citizens, what is the call to action or connection? How are we supposed to respond in these moments?
We need to respond by people that are unlikely defending the right of people to disagree without facing violence. You are seeing HBCU schools closed down today. People getting threats. We're getting crazy calls at National Action Network. We need to affirm people that are unlikely need to come together and say, we stand together against the violence. As you read 4 ex-presidents, I would have loved to see President Trump reach out to them and say, let's make a statement together. Or one of the 4 say that. Because we are at a point where if we don't stop this, it's going to be this side against that side and who can shoot the most. And I think that we have an opportunity to have a wake-up call to what is our moral standard in this country more than our political standard. So we bring this back into a debate against ideas and our political feelings, even though some of them may be as extreme as far as we're concerned. Nobody's extreme enough to be killed.